to explore the Hebrew roots of your Christian faith? Then grab your Bible and let's get started. Shabbat Shalom and welcome back to another Sabbath day teaching. Thank you for joining me on today. Today is a day that Jehovah has blessed us with another day to do the work of the kingdom. And some of us, he's given us another day to repent while there still is light, or what some would say, while you're on this side of the grave. Jehovah is so patient with his creation that he gives us a gift of another day. Now, some would say, why is it so chaotic if there is a good and justice Elohim? Well, the chaos is coming from his creation. They're moving farther and farther away from him. This is what causes chaos. But besides all of that, he still gives us another day. Why does he give us another day? Some of us, again, to do the work of the kingdom, and some of us, because he does not desire for his creation to perish. He wants us to come into repentance. This is the Elohim who we serve. Welcome to Reconcile the Kingdom, where we're working towards growing in harmony of the whole word of truth. My name is Patrice Robinson, and I'm greatly appreciative of all of you who's able to join me today on this live premiere, and of course, those who will be joining me on the replay. For all returning subscribers, I welcome you. I am greatly appreciative of you joining me again, and that you share the link. For new subscribers, welcome to the family, and thank you for allowing me to be before you. Thank you all for allowing me to be before you and joining me on this journey as we are following the footsteps of the Messiah. We're learning about his teaching. What did he taught? What is written? Again, I greatly appreciate all of you who support me along this ministry. To all visitors, thank you for coming. I'm hoping that you're ready to join this family, a family that does not mind challenging the religious system teachings that we have been under for hundreds of years, a family that's open to being a lifetime student of the Bible, a family that is ready to explore the Hebrew roots of your Christian faith, and you're not afraid to search the scriptures. So many people are afraid to search the scriptures. It's easy to join this family. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button below. Don't forget the bell. The bell lets you know when I'm live, any announcements or any updates that come from this ministry. And that's another reason why we use the community tab and YouTube. And of course, we use the other avenues. Now, this is not the only way you can support the ministry. You can support the ministry by making comments in the comment box. Let me know when you're learning something. Let me know when you got some insight that you are, or where you're from, what part of the country, or what other country, what state, what city you're from. Share the link when you're live, when you're watching the live premiere, and share the link when you are watching on the replay. Give me a thumbs up. That thumbs up is to let me know that you enjoy the biblical content that I am presenting before you. There's many of you who watch, many of you that visit, and you leave out without giving me a thumbs up. You leave out without subscribing. You leave out without a comment. Come on. We are a community, so we communicate with one another. Give me a thumbs up. Not only is it good for me to know that you're learning something, that you're getting some insight, but it also let you to know that they need to send the ministry out to more people. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Spotify, and don't forget the YouTube podcast. And those who are on YouTube podcast, I will be putting another playlist in for you. So follow me on all those social media. Now, during the teachings, I use my workbooks that I have created. It keeps me organized. It helps me dig deeper in the word and helps me share with you. So if you're interested in any of the books that I workbooks and the worksheets that I create, you most definitely can go over to the SCRK Biblical Studio and you can purchase those items there, not on the Sabbath day, but the rest of the 6 days of the week. So that's available to you. All the information we talked about on ways to support the ministry, these are ways you support the ministry. You can find that in the description box and all the links. And then you can take a look at that doing the while you live and also doing the replay. You can take a look at those items. So we are still in season 4 of what Yeshua taught. So once again, you can purchase that workbook on your own in the Etsy studio. So don't forget, at the end of the teaching today, you're able to ask questions. So what you can do is shoot those questions while we are going through the teaching. I will address the questions at the end of the teaching. I also address those questions that you send to me during the replay. I encourage you to ask questions. I encourage you to make comments and to share throughout the teaching. Remember, we're all at different levels, and we are to learn from one another. We share the word and we learn from one another. So make sure you have your Bible before you, all the writing utensils that you need. Hopefully you have your workbook before you. If you have not purchased a workbook, have a sheet of paper. You should always take notes, because the reason you're taking notes is because you're going to go back and test what I am teaching you. You should be testing anyone that is teaching you something. Just like the Bereans, we talk about this for the past 2 years, that we are supposed to be like the Bereans, testing things to make sure things are right. And of course, we are taught this in the Torah to test the teachers. So we always begin the teaching with the previous lesson from last week. We was in season 4, episode 7. So I'm going to bring up my sheet and hopefully it comes up. I see there's a little problem, but it came up. Thank you. I'm so glad. I don't want to have any internet problems on today. So this is from last week, again, episode number 7, which came from the passage from John chapter 8, verse 48, 9 through chapter 9, 1 through 12. Notable themes. And John, we still have this continued insults towards Yeshua. Then we also have Yeshua still doing discipleship. He's still teaching the disciples and making more disciples. People begin to believe on him. He is the light of the world. He's teaching them that he's the light of the world. And then we have Jehovah's power that is shown. All the cross reference. I want to address the cross reference from John chapter 5, verse 1 through 8. We had talked about this man being born blind, which was from John chapter 8. But John chapter 5, we have the blind, the lame, and all of them being healed. And there is a pool, Bethesda, inside John chapter 8. There's another pool, I think it's called Salam. So those was a comparison about the pool, but the man that was lame is the one that took up his mat and walked. I wanted to clarify that because I think I misspoken last week. Now, I have my word study. My word study is death. This is the final death that they will see when he said, you will not taste death. And this is the death that you will not taste when you're following the Messiah. Now, the Messiah in John chapter 8, he had a discussion about he had to get things done before the darkness come. I'm going to read that to you. John chapter 9, verses 4 through 5. We must carry out the works of him who sent me as long as it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. While I'm in the world, I am the light of the world. So Yeshua is speaking about this darkness. Now, for me, when he was speaking about this darkness, 2 passages came in mind. One from when he dies, and then in Revelation when they're thrown into the outer darkness. So those 2 areas came to me. But I want to focus on today on the passage and Luke 23, verses 44 through 45, because that darkness no one worked. So it says, it was now about the 6th hour, and darkness came over all the land until the 9th hour. The sun was darkened. Now we know this is going to happen again, but the sun was darkened, and the veil of the temple was torn down the middle. So there was no work being done, because what? Where are the disciples at this time? They're hiding. Were disciples, and what are they doing up to the 3rd day that he rises from the dead? They're not doing the work of the kingdom. They're actually, some went back to what they was doing and fishing, and then, some were hiding. So most definitely, this is what was going on in my mind when I read about that. Now, Yeshua is focused on what is important, the essentials, what is important, because they're claiming and comparing him as being a demon and someone from Samaria living in sin. This is because people begin to believe in him. But we know that a demon would never reverence the Father. By following Yeshua's teachings, you are showing respect to the Father, because Yeshua's teachings come from the Father. That same Yeshua who they can't find sin in, remember, he said, point out the sin. He teaches the Torah. But they target him. He is targeted not for teaching incorrectly, according to Jehovah, but from teaching different from their traditions. Yeshua then drops a bomb on them. I love this. He said, Abraham saw his day and rejoiced. And they're like, hey, you're not even 50 years old. How do you know Abraham? You could have been before Abraham. But when he said, I am, oh, they wanted to stone him to death. Matter of fact, they grabbed stones and he got away. They were going to murder him. Yeshua understands Jehovah's ways and perceives the will of the Father, and the will of the Father will be revealed through this blind man. Yeshua knew and understood this. This is why he said this was not caused by any sin. He was born blind, but now this man sees. Now, the thing that I noticed last week is that he's back in the same place, because the neighbors, the people looking like, isn't that the same man? Isn't that the man that was begging? Isn't that the same man? And he kept saying, yeah, I'm the man. I'm the one. Yes, that's me. But not once did we hear at this time that this man is testifying that Yeshua healed him. Not once did we hear this man going yelling that I was blind, now I see. Not once did we hear any of this. He wasn't testifying about anything. But his very presence of being in that spot again is a testimony. And this is what we're going to get into today. So my application, I will continue. This is what I continue. Examine a teacher who's teaching, because I have to determine if they're teaching from tradition or they're teaching from the written word. And that can be very difficult to discern if you do not have the foundation of the Tanakh, the Old Testament. So it's difficult to discern. Okay, I continue to study the whole word, not part, not half, but the whole word. And I will do my best to walk in the word. This is a lifestyle. Following and being a disciple of Yeshua. How do you be, what does it mean to be a disciple of Yeshua? That means it's a whole lifestyle change. It's a whole renewing of the mind. It's being born again by the washing of the water of the word. The word renews your mind. All of this. So who are we following will always remain as a question on our journey. Again, I will leave this sheet up for a moment so that you can share any questions, any comments, anything you have that's presented to you today. Even through the overview, you most definitely have an opportunity to ask questions or anything. So today's passage of study comes from John chapter 9, verse 13 through 41, meaning that we're going to finish John chapter 9 on today. This account, this event is not found in any other gospel, only in John. John is unique in his writings. I hope you're able to recognize that. He's unique in his writings from the other disciples. One, he most definitely addressed the religious leaders as Jews. And one, he is most definitely, of course, I'm pretty sure you all know this, he is most definitely focused on his divinity of who he is. Verse 13, they brought the man who was previously blind to the Pharisees. Now it was a Sabbath on the day that Yeshua made the mud and opened his eyes. Then the Pharisees also was asking him again how he received his sight. And he said to them, he applied mud to my eyes, and I washed, and I see. Therefore, some of the Pharisees were saying, this man is not of Elohim because he does not keep the Sabbath. But others are saying, how can a man who was a sinner perform such signs? And there was dissension among them. There was discord among them. So they said again to the man who was blind, what do you say about him since he opened your eyes? And he said, he is a prophet. So one thing that is very common in that time is that they are aware of the work of the prophets. The prophets did a lot of miracles, healing, and all those type of things. But this is going to go a little bit deeper and a little bit different as we continue on. So we have who brought the man to the Pharisees. Why did they bring the man to the Pharisees? So there's two questions. Who brought the man to the Pharisees? And why did they bring the man to the Pharisees? The people did. The neighbors did. When they found out that he was, he was healed, who's going to do this? Who will heal this man? So the people were well trained to go to the Pharisees when there's some healing going on, when there's some questions about what is going on among their faith. Then we have this information that Yeshua did this miracle on the Sabbath day. On the Sabbath day. So let's pay attention to this. Now, according to the Pharisees, Yeshua could not be a man of Elohim, a man of God, because he did not keep the Sabbath according to their tradition. Again, I'm going to repeat this. According to their Pharisee tradition. The people were confused by this statement. They were confused by the statement that he cannot be a man of Elohim, because how can someone perform this miracle like this and not be lined up with the Father? If the Pharisees are following the teachings of Moses, the question is, where in the Torah do you find that a person cannot perform miracles or heal of some sort on the Sabbath day? Now, according to the Pharisees' teaching, you can find this in the Talmud and other writings that they have. If you have someone performing a medical or a medicine type of activity, like grinding the things together, salt, water, all that, as a way of healing someone, that is forbidden. Again, this is not from the Torah, but this is from their extra writings, from their Talmud or Rima, other writings that they have, to traditions they uphold for the Sabbath day. Now, what we should do is look into the Torah. So the Pharisees are saying this. We should be looking into the Torah to understand what it says about healing on the Sabbath. We should look into that, right? What does the Torah say about healing on the Sabbath day? Nothing. The Torah does not say nothing about healing on the Sabbath day. However, the Torah does address working on the Sabbath day. You find that in Exodus 28 through 10. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but on the seventh day is a Sabbath day to Jehovah your Elohim, on which you must not do any work, neither you nor your son or daughter, nor your manservant or your maidservant or your livestock, nor the foreigner within your gates. No one as a believer do any work. The instruction is to work for 6 days and keep the Sabbath. The seventh day, holy, do no work. So does this mean Yeshua sinned? Does this mean that he's broken some commandment? No. Yeshua is doing the work of the kingdom, sent by the Father to do the work of the kingdom. So those of you that are new, maybe to the Hebrew roots, or are new to studying the Old Testament, the Tanakh, wouldn't understand that the workers of the kingdom, you work 7 days a week. You work literally 7 days a week. Matter of fact, on the Sabbath day, the high Sabbaths, those days are the most busiest days of the week. So I'm going to point you to Numbers 28. I'm going to point you to Numbers 28 because this is important. This is important because that is the way for you to understand the workers of the kingdom and what those requirements are. Now, I'm not going to read the entire passage of the entire chapter of number 28. I want you to read that on your own. I'm just going to read a passage out of that chapter. I'm going to read Numbers 28, verses 9 through 10. On the Sabbath day, present 2 unblemished year-old male lambs, accompanied by a grain offering of 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour, mixed with oil, as well as a drink offering. And this is a burnt offering for every Sabbath. So every 7th day of the week, this is added on to, it's in addition to the regular burnt offering on its drink offering. So you have daily offerings and you have the Sabbath day offering. So those of you who are working in the fivefold ministry, you work daily, you work on the Sabbath day, you work on the monthly feast, you work on the annual feast. The workers of the kingdom continue to work. Now, the fivefold ministry is not only in the New Testament, but you see all that work in the Tanakh and the Old Testament. So you continue to work. So that's available for you to do your research. Numbers 28. John, verse 18. The Jews, again, that's the Pharisees, then did not believe it about him that he had been blind and had received sight until they called his parents of the very one who had received his sight. And they questioned them. This is this whole interrogation that's going on. They're interrogating now the parents, saying, is this your son who you say was born blind? Then how does he now see? His parents then answered and said, we know that this is our son and that he was born blind, but how he now sees, we do not know, or who opened his eyes, we do not know. Ask him, he is of age. He will speak for himself. His parents said this because they were afraid of the Jews, the Pharisees. For the Pharisees, the Jews, had already reached a decision. that if anyone confessed him to be the Messiah, anyone who confessed Yeshua being the Messiah, he was to be excommunicated from the synagogue. It was for this reason that his parents said, he is of age, ask him. So the people, the neighbors and all the ones that seen all of this and see that he is able to see, he once was born blind, now he can see, they believed. But the Jews, the Pharisees, the religious leaders, did not believe. This is impossible that he was blind and Yeshua healed him. This is impossible. Go get his parents. Bring the parents, interrogate them. Is this your son who you say was born blind? Then how does he now see? They confirmed that he was born blind. But don't ask me how now he sees. I have no idea about this. I don't have a clue. The Pharisees already told the people, if you confess that he's the Messiah, you can't come back into the synagogues because they control the synagogues. This man is of age, so the parents say, ask him. So if he get kicked out of synagogue, he get kicked out of synagogue on his own. The people of Jehovah day, and this time the Yeshua was around, understood if they cannot go to the synagogue, where else can they keep the Sabbath? Where can they keep the assembly? Where can they do this and keep it holy? If you're not assembling among the community, there's a problem. So if I get kicked out of the synagogue, where am I going to uphold the Sabbath day? Where am I going to keep that commandment? And so this is the issue that the apostles had to address, because your people cannot go to the synagogue. They're getting kicked out. What do we do? So just like all the apostles, and especially like Paul, begin to establish assemblies, congregations to honor those, be able to honor the Father in keeping the Sabbath day, just like Yeshua did, just like the apostles did. You continue to honor those days. You keep assembling among believers. You don't have to be worried about being kicked out of the synagogue. I have you covered. We're going to do this. This is why we are sent to establish these type of things. So, verse 24. For the second time, here go another interrogation. We had first they spoke to him, then they spoke to the parents, then they summoned him back up. For the second time, they summoned the man who had been blind and said to him, give glory to Elohim. We know that this man is a sinner. He then answered, whether he is a sinner, I do not know. One thing I do know, that though I was blind, now I see. So they said to him, what did he do to you? How did he open your eyes? He answered them, I told you already, and you do not listen. Why do you want to hear it again? You do not want to become a disciples too, do you? And they spoke abrasively to him and said, you are his disciple, but we are disciples of Moses. We know that Elohim has spoken to Moses, but as for this man, we do not know where he is from. Then the man answered and said to them, well, here is the amazing thing, that you do not know where he is from, and yet he opened my eyes. We know that Elohim does not listen to sinners, but if someone is God-fearing, Elohim-fearing, he does his will, he listens to him. Since the beginning of time, it has never been heard that anyone opened the eyes of a person born blind. If this man was not from Elohim, he could do nothing. They answered him, You are born entirely in sins, and yet you're teaching us. So they put him out. I am amazed. And all I can say is wow about the words that's come from this man who's born blind. This man is not a teacher. He's among the people, an average person who was born blind, who was begging. All I can say is at his words, because he's able to discern the work of the Father. And he said, did you not hear me the first time when I said this? Why are you asking me this again? Now, they wanted specific details so they can judge whether Yeshua is breaking the Sabbath according to their teachings, according to their traditions. Now, the man said, I can't say that this man is a sinner. All I know is that I was blind. Matter of fact, I was born blind, and now I see. None of you or anyone else you know could have done this. This has never been done before. By the way, Jehovah only hears from those who fear and respect him. Now, Jehovah does hear from sinners because your sinners repent. So he does hear from sinners, but according to what they've been taught is that he don't hear sinners. Now, get this. They say they're disciples of Moses. And from their mindset, from what they're taught, from their teaching, they're or from listening to Moses. At least they believe they're disciples of Moses. That's what they believe. Now, this is exactly what many non-denominational religious systems would teach you. They would teach you that the Pharisees and other religious sects during the time of Yeshua were following Moses, not listening to Yeshua because he was bringing a different message, a message of love, that he nailed the words that were given to Moses from Jehovah to the cross. That is what non-denominational religious systems would teach you. But that would be called heresy, because that is not what the written word says. So we that our eyes have been opened, those who are finding their path to the Hebrew roots, we know different, because again, that is not what the written word says. We can go straight to the teaching, the words from the master teacher himself. He addresses the issues that they're not following Moses' teaching. They're not. They're following their own traditions. So let's read a few verses about what Yeshua said to the religious leaders of his time. He spoke this to them. John 7:19. Has not Moses given you the law? Yet not one of you keeps it. Why are you trying to kill me? They trying to kill him. He's addressing that you're not being a disciple of Moses at all. So they are trying to kill him. John 5:46. If you have believed Moses, you will believe me. Why? Because they're teaching the same thing. Because he wrote about me. He wrote that he's coming and this is what he's going to be teaching. Moses was given specific instructions on how to teach, what to teach, how to test a teacher, how to test a prophet. All that information was given to Moses, spoken by Jehovah. Now, one thing that we who are walking the path of learning to become disciples and growing into following the Messiah, what we are doing and what we're teaching is what he did and what he taught, right? This is what is supposed to happen. This is why Paul told the house of Corinth, the people that were that congregation, that assembly, in 1 Corinthians 11:1, be imitators of me just as I also am Messiah. Follow me as I follow the Messiah. That's what we're supposed to be doing, right? So after all of this, when the Pharisees interrogated him for the first time, his parents, and now him for the second time, they didn't receive anything. They were so high-minded that they were unable to humble themselves and hear the words of the man now who can see, who was born blind and now who can see. Instead, they brought up him being blind and then connected his previous blindness to sin. And we learned about this last week, that his blindness has nothing to do with sin. But their mindset was just the same as the disciples in the beginning. So as you recognize that Yeshua is taking the people, the ones who's following him, the disciples, and cleaning it up. All the nonsense teachings and the traditions that they have been taught all these years is incorrect. So he is correcting them and bringing them back to the Father's teachings, which the Father taught Moses. So this is hard for people to receive and to understand. This is what Yeshua was doing. Verse 35. Yeshua heard that they had put him out. And upon finding him, he said, do you believe in the Son of Man? He answered by saying, and who is he, sir, that I may believe in him? Yeshua said to him, you have both seen him, and he is the one who's talking with you. And he said, I believe, Lord. And he worshiped him. Yeshua heard that this man was put out, able to find him. He found this man, had one question. Do you believe in the Son of Man? Do you believe in the Son of Man? Do you believe that the Messiah was coming? That was foretold from Genesis on. Do you believe? Now, this is the first test that Yeshua had to face in his ministry when he was tempted, when Satan came and tempted him. Remember, he tempted him by saying to him, if you're the son of Elohim, tell the stones to become bread, because he was fasting. And Yeshua answered, it is written, man should not live by bread alone, but every word that comes from the mouth of Elohim. What words came from the mouth of Elohim? The very words that Moses had written down. The people of Yeshua day understood that the Son of Man is the Messiah. The Messiah is coming and presenting himself in the authority of Jehovah. And Yeshua said, you see and hear him talking to you. Oh, this reminds me of the woman in the well. You've been looking. I'm right here in front of you. Now, I want us to pay close attention to the ending of this passage. Pay close attention to the details of what's going to be taught on today. And Yeshua said, verse 39, for judgment I came into this world, so that those who do not see may see, and for those who see may become blind. Those who were with him from the Pharisees heard these things and said unto him, we are not blind too, are we? Yeshua said to them, if you were blind, you would have no sin. But now that you maintain, we see your sin remains. This is a wonderful passage to understand what blindness can do to you, how this traditions and these religious things, what it can do to you. He came to open blind eyes, and those who think they can see are blind. The Spirit of Jehovah is upon me, because he anointed me to preach good tidings to the poor, to preach the gospel to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim, to preach, release to the captives, and recovering the sight to the blind, to set at liberty of them that are bruised. Yeshua, that's Luke 4:18. Yeshua came at this time to do this, to show who he is. You know, this from Isaiah. Look it up. Now, Yeshua did not say this in secret. So the Pharisees heard this. The Pharisees was right there. And what was their response? Are we blind? They asked, are we blind? If you who are blind don't know sin, if you're blind, you cannot discern the things. You will not understand what is sin. You will understand sin according to the denomination, non-denominational religious system, but you will not understand what is sin according to what is written, because you have all this clouded other information in you. Now, if you're saying you see, you remain in your sin. How is that? How do you remain in your sin and you say you see? If you are saying that you're following the Messiah and not, but claiming you are, you remain in your sin. So this is important. This is why Yeshua said this in Matthew chapter 7, verse 21 through 23. This is very common. This is a very common teaching passage. It says, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only he who does the will of my Father in heaven. Pause. Does the will of my Father in heaven. What is the will of the Father in heaven? Think about that. Meditate on that. Verse 22. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons, and perform many miracles? Then I would tell them plainly, clearly, I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness. Some of your Bibles probably say iniquity. Anomia, look it up, G458. Contentment and violation of the law. The very law that people will tell you that Yeshua nailed on the cross. There are so many denomination, non-denominational religious systems that teaches this passage, but do not see it because they're blind. They teach the passage. They will read it to you, and they will disregard the Torah. They will disregard everything that came out of the mouth of Jehovah to Moses to teach to the people, the same teaching that Yeshua is teaching, the same teaching that the disciples are teaching, even Paul's teaching. People say it's not, but that's because they don't understand the scriptures. They don't understand this passage itself. Because you are following the Son, right? You follow the Messiah, you are obeying the Father. And the Son does nothing outside what the Father has said or shows him. So if you are and think you are following the Son and you disregard the Father teachings, you're on the same path of the Pharisees. You are blind, claim you can see, and remain in sin, and you will die in your sin. This is clearly what the Messiah, what Yeshua is teaching us. We have to come out of the traditions of man and understand what is written, because Yeshua taught what is written. He told us to follow him because he does what is written, because he pleased the Father. So you're following him. You are a disciple of Yeshua. You cannot follow Yeshua without obeying the Father. It's plain and simple. You cannot do that. I'm hoping that you learned something from today. I'm hoping that you will share this link to someone you feel like really needs to hear this. I'm hoping that you are able to meditate on what is taught on today, because we have to follow the Messiah and come out of this tradition of man that kills, makes the word of Jehovah ineffective in our lives. We have to find this path, and we have to do this path like the Messiah did. Now, I don't see any questions or any comments at this moment. Remember, I will address those as you send them through the replay. So don't forget to give me a thumbs up before you head out and hit that subscribe button. Join me on Tuesday at 7 o'clock p.m. as we are in Exodus chapter 11. It is wonderful going through the book of Exodus. And join me on next Saturday at 10 o'clock p.m. as we continue the journey of following the footsteps of the Messiah. We will be on episode 9. We are moving forward through this teaching. And after this teaching is over, which we go into episode 14, we're going straight into the book of Acts. So don't forget to get your tools and everything ready for the book of Acts. May Jehovah bless you and keep you. May Jehovah shine his face on you and give you his favor. May Jehovah shine his face towards you and give you his peace. All in the mighty name of Yeshua. Have a blessed rest of the week. And I will see you Tuesday at 7 o'clock p.m. As always, thank you for supporting me on today. Thank you for your support.